Hey, what's up guys? Today I'm doing a review on the Mal Boxing dual restraint boxing gloves. So check it out. Hey, what's up guys? Carlo here. Today I'm doing a review on the Mal Boxing, Mal as in malice, dual restraint boxing gloves. Got mine in this beautiful black, white, and gold colorway in size large, which is roughly 14 ounces. And it utilizes the first of its kind and very unique dual restraint Velcro strapping system. Now, this is inherently built in to help support with wrist flexion. So we'll discuss that here in more detail here in a second. Sizing wise, you can get this anywhere between small to XL. Keep in mind that this is essentially a training / bag glove. It is not meant for sparring. So when you go onto the Mal Boxing website, you'll notice that they sell these by the letter size, not by the ounces. But when I did put this glove on the scale, being size large, it came in at 13.8 ounces, which I'm assuming is supposed to be a 14-ounce glove. So my best guess is that the extra large is 16, the medium is going to be 12 ounces, and the small is going to be 10 ounces. You can also get this in one additional colorway, which is going to be swapping colors. Essentially, it's going to be white as the main color, and then you swap the black to the wrist support. The glove is made of a synthetic leather outside casing, very similar to a lot of the other Chinese-made high-quality synthetics. It's really nice. It's held up really well. There's several other manufacturers that has used this type of synthetic. Has a really nice thick feel to it and has a smooth texture. Utilizes a smooth, foamy tri-cot inner liner on the inside and layered foam padding that's medium in density over the knuckle. So really the type of padding that you can use for everything in the gym, hitting the bag, doing mitt work. If it didn't have this strapping system on the back and was a lace-up glove, this type of padding would be perfect for sparring as well. So a really nice, well-balanced training glove / bag glove. Now, Mal Boxing is a relatively new company that is based out of Australia. The gloves themselves are manufactured in China, and the whole premise and design behind this dual restraint system is to prevent hyperflexion. And when you put this glove on, you'll notice that it has your traditional wraparound hook and loop Velcro strap, but it also has this additional vertical strap that has a loop right here that loops into pretty much midway through the glove right here. There's a seam that it stitches into, and this vertical strap essentially grabs into this loop right here, and when you pull down on it, it's double-sided. It goes down onto your standard horizontal strap, and then when you wrap this around, this covers that up. But what this does is once you have your hand into place, it basically, one, prevents the glove from folding over. So you have a lot of gloves that kind of have that floppy wrist section. So it basically prevents the glove from flopping and having this midsection where it kind of is top heavy and it flops over. So it provides a balance in that regards. But what it also helps with is it helps prevent your fist from landing and rolling forward. So sometimes when you punch, oftentimes the most frequent injuries, at least that I've had to deal with, is when I'm hitting a heavy bag and maybe I come in at a wrong angle, and either my wrist goes one like this direction to the side or it goes downwards. And oftentimes that's because of the type of padding, injected molded foam, more of the really dense solid padding that is more rounded off. So it doesn't give you the proper, I guess you could say fist formation. It doesn't allow you to create a nice tight fist. And when you land, you end up kind of doing one of that. It's almost like your wrist buckles forward. So that's essentially what this dual restraint system does, is it essentially prevents you from having your wrist flip forward in that position. It's not very often that your wrist goes upwards, right? So if your wrist did go upwards, there's nothing to prevent that from happening with this glove. You could essentially have your wrist go up like that, but that's not what this glove is designed for. It's designed for your wrist to go downwards. And to be honest with you, in all the years that I've been training, I don't think I've ever had an injury or even had my wrist go in that upwards position like this. It never flares up. It's not like you're gonna hit with your fingers or your palm and your hand is gonna go upwards. It's usually when you're landing like this and then your wrist kind of turns in. That's typically where you kind of get that wrist injury, or you might get some type of some pain when you're landing, is when your wrist kind of bends downwards like that, or to the side. So that's the whole premise and design behind this dual restraint system. I definitely think it's useful for those of you that maybe have a pre-existing injury and just can't stay away from training. I'm the same way, where you maybe have an injury and you want it to heal, but you also don't want to be completely sedentary and not train. You want to train to a certain degree, but you're afraid of re-aggravating that same nagging injury. To me, this would be a good glove for that. This would be a good glove, especially if you're trying to keep your wrist in line and prevent that hyperflexion, that wrist flexion. This is the type of glove I think that would be good in rehabilitating yourself if you do have a hand injury. One thing I do think that is also important to note, that oftentimes it's not just this part of the glove that's going to be protecting yourself from getting a wrist injury. It's really the style of padding. I often find that the padding that I have, I want to say the history of having injuries with, but the ones that are, I guess, have a higher percentage or possibility of getting a wrist injury are the paddings that are too thick or too rounded or too stiff. And because of that, again, I kind of go back to your hand being in proper placement with fist placement. You're hitting the bag, and that's when you end up getting that slip, and you end up going inwards, because all of that foam and the way it's formed on the inside of the hand compartment doesn't allow for the proper hand and fist ergonomics. In fact, there's gloves that are like those old school bag mitts that it's literally like a gardener's glove. You actually could probably get a better, more protection out of that, just essentially because you're punching with the proper form and you're landing the way you're supposed to. And it's also strengthening your hand and your forearms and your wrist. So that's another thing to keep in mind with gloves, not just these, but the style of padding. Usually that's something that's more medium, softer in density, that flattens out nicely on your knuckles, is going to do better in terms of not allowing your wrist to get off course when you're landing with your punches. So aside from this dual restraint system, that's something that you want to keep in mind. And even other gloves that don't have this, that have really nice soft foams or a good blend of foams, historically have always done better than others as far as like preventing wrist injuries. In my opinion, that's at least how it's been for me. So from a design standpoint, for if 14-ounce glove, if we're going to go by the number of ounces, I'd say that this is a medium-sized glove. It's not overly huge. It's not super small and compact. I'd say it's right there in the middle. You do have the MAL logo on the back of the glove. It almost looks like a hand wrap designed that way. The MAL kind of looks like a hand wrap. It does say MAL on the back of the Velcro strap, 3.5-inch Velcro strap. You do have a gold thumb, a black attached thumb right there at the very tip. Nice grippy Velcro, smooth, soft tricot, foamy inner liner. You do have a MAL tag on the inside that say large right here, as well where the glove is manufactured. Gold piping on the palm. Wrist support, I'd say, is about 1 inch on the back of the wrist with a softer padding on the inside against your skin. About maybe 1/4 of an inch of firm padding on the inner part of the wrist right here. Double stitching throughout. You also have ventilated holes below and above the grip bar. Grip bar on here is a little bit on the softer and smaller side. Wish it would have been a little bit larger, but you do have ventilated holes on there. And that's essentially it. I'd say the gold on here is more of a subdued kind of pearly gold rather than like a really flashy, bright gold. But overall, beautiful looking glove. I like the style on here. Looks really good. Quality wise, for a synthetic, it's top notch. The synthetic material in here is held up really nicely. The stitching looks really good as well. A lot of these manufacturers, even, a lot of the manufacturers in China that are coming out with gloves are doing a really solid job in terms of the stitching, just the overall QC, the quality control of their equipment. Is it perfect? No. I mean, there's a couple of areas right here where you have a little bit of some threading kind of popping up, but there's nothing that's screaming a red flag. There's nothing that says, okay, that's a huge problem, right? So overall, The colors look vibrant. The stitching looks good. There's no exposed foam on the inside liner. You know, they're 13.8 ounces. So I'm assuming if these are supposed to be 14, they're almost on point with weight. They're both 13.8 ounces. So in terms of being symmetrical, both gloves are pretty much the same weight as each other. And you can see just next to each other, stitching wise, and again, symmetry, the gloves look the same, and they essentially do. You know, they don't look crooked, they don't look off. Logos in the right place. So again, for a synthetic, there's no real huge flaws that I can see for this glove. Obviously, it's a very well balanced glove because of that dual restraint system, and even without it, with the padding on that goes through your wrist, it holds up nicely. It's not too top heavy or bottom heavy. Comfort wise, sliding your hand into the glove, you'll notice that the hand compartment is very comfortable. That soft foamy liner feels really good. Thumb position is perfect. You also notice that the gold piping right here drops down further, so it allows the thumb entry to be more comfortable, especially my left hand. I mentioned this in other videos, but the fat part of my thumb on my left hand is a little bit bigger than my right. So it gets a little tighter, but with this one, it feels really comfortable. I don't have any issues with that being too tight. And the actual position where it flares up feels really good. The tip doesn't flip down and jam into my thumb. So in terms of the depth of the thumb, it feels really good. And it has a nice deep finger compartment. It's not too wide, it's not too narrow. I do wish the grip bar was larger because it feels almost like an afterthought. But you also have like a secondary piece of neoprene and like a secondary grip bar that really lets you grip onto it and make a nice tight fist. The gloves, I'd say, are semi broken in. They're not extremely soft, but they're not ultra stiff. It does take a little bit of time to break these gloves in, but once you do, they soften up pretty nicely. But overall, I mean, the gloves are very comfortable. And in terms of that dual restraint system, there's really nothing that you can feel with this right here. Everything on this system is all external, so you don't really have to worry about any issues or any kind of discomfort with that. And again, that Velcro strap is what prevents your hand, again, from kind of sliding downwards. If you were to land and your punch kind of goes downwards, you don't have to worry about your hand kind of flipping down and getting or sustaining an injury or re-aggravating an injury with that. Protection and performance wise, I mentioned this again earlier. This is, to me, really the type of padding that's perfect for all types of training. You get good pop, good feedback with it, good shock absorption right there in the middle. You can pretty much use this for everything in the gym. And I'm glad that they didn't go cheap with the padding. They didn't go with like an ejected molded foam or some type of other padding that to me would kind of circumvent the wrist strap system. I feel like that layered foam that they use with that medium density is a really good type of padding that complements this wrist strap system that works well together. Cost-wise, these gloves are $100, which is honestly a breath of fresh air. And the reason I say that is I'm pretty sure we've all noticed a lot of gloves, a lot of brands in general have just been going up in price, inflation. So, you know, for a synthetic glove with this dual restraint system, even at $100, I think it's a good deal. I mean, this to me is a glove that if you're having a pre-existing injury or you just have hand problems, especially with the wrist flexion issues, it might be worthwhile for you to look at these, especially at that price point of $100. I do like the colorways that they come with the black, gold, and white, and then they have the swapped colors with the white. So I do like the fact that you have, you know, different colors to choose from, and also 4 different sizes. So small all the way to XL, so anywhere between 10 and 16 ounces. So you do have different sizes to choose from. Obviously, this is not a lace-up glove because that would defeat the whole purpose of this strap system. It is a bag and training glove only. So I guess the main drawback with that is that you can't use these gloves for sparring. Now, if you were to do a little bit light sparring, some technical sparring, nothing heavy, I'm pretty sure you can get away with it and not have to worry about it. But anything harder than that, you definitely have to be wary of this Velcro here on the back. This whole section right here can definitely do some damage to somebody if you were to come across with a hook or any type of grazing punch. So, but overall, really impressed with these gloves. I think that, again, there's somewhat of a niche for these just because there hasn't really been anything like these. I mean, there's other brands, obviously Rival, and there's several others that have, you know, Hayabusa, Onyx, the X Factors, that have their own kind of proprietary V-strap, wrist lock, whatever you want to call it, these type of wrist lock systems. But there's nothing that actually has this type of system that helps with the wrist flexion. So it's kind of its own category. And so far, I'm impressed with these. So if you guys have any questions or comments, you guys know what to do, put them down below. I'll put the link in the description box where you can find these Mal Boxing dual restraint boxing gloves. I'll see you guys later. Peace.